The Bourbon Steward here, and I just got back from a trip. 2,000 miles, 12 days, 20 distilleries. If that sounds good to you, stay tuned. All right, Three Rivers Distillery was pretty interesting. It was our first stop of the trip, and be honest, a craft distillery I've never heard of for our first stop, I didn't have high expectations, but we were pleasantly surprised. So, as you saw in the photos, they've got a really nice place there. We tried a bunch of samples of their stuff, and we ended up actually buying a couple of them. So that says a lot about a new distillery. This one here, this was their Lost Dog Bourbon. This was in honor of the distillery dog, the owner's dog that was there. Actually took off, was gone for a couple days, and then returned. This is a straight Indiana bourbon. This is batch 1. It is all their own distillate, which was pretty cool. And what surprised me the most was it actually tasted pretty decent. For a younger craft distillery, it was pretty good. It still had some youthful notes, but good bones, good structure, and some nice sweetness, which was surprising. Next up was what we tried and actually bought was their cake stand bourbon. This is, again, their own distillate. This was originally distilled in honor of their 3-year anniversary. This one is their 2023 version. And what's really interesting is they got a cease and desist letter from Brown-Forman. So when they originally made this for their anniversary, they called it their birthday bourbon. Well, of course, a lot of you bourbon fans out there know that Old Forester makes a birthday bourbon. They are owned by Brown-Forman. And even though this is a very small distillery producing very small quantities out of Fort Wayne, Indiana, they didn't take kindly to someone using the birthday bourbon name. So they sent them a cease and desist, and they had to repackage, rebrand all of their items. That was pretty interesting. So they call it the cake stand, and there they tell you that it does not contain any cake, sprinkles, or candles, but it does taste pretty good for a craft distillery and not too far from the Northwest Ohio, Southeast Michigan area. So I highly recommend you check these guys out. And then last, we were really impressed with their Franklin B. Rye Whiskey. This is 100% Indiana grown rye. Again, their own distillate. This is batch number 23. And what's really interesting, it says months aged in oak casks, 15. This is only a 15-month-old 100% rye whiskey that tastes well older than it is. And I'm really excited to see when they get old enough and are able to put out some more aged products, because if it tastes this good at 15 months to 3 years old, I can't wait to see what it tastes like at 4 and 6 years old. So Three Rivers, Fort Wayne, Indiana, I highly recommend them. All right, now after the big disappointment at Hotel Tango, that was not impressive at all. I thought that might have been all marketing. It was all marketing. But then our night got better. Our last stop of the day was at Four Finger Distillery, and we met some great people there. It was really cool. As you saw from the photos, they've got their barrels aging in the basement, which was a trip. And interesting story on how they got their name, the Four Finger, with the owner literally losing a finger to his business. That was great. But what it made even better was the whiskey was actually pretty good. This is we ended up getting 3 of them. This is their 3-knot whiskey that we picked up. This is actually a blend of their own distillate and MGP. Some younger distillate of their own, some older stocks of MGP. Really nice, rounded. I've tried some other whiskeys from craft distilleries that they blend their own with MGP, and it doesn't always work out that well. But this one actually worked out pretty good. Then they actually went to the back and received an autograph and got us a couple bottles of this. This is their 6-year-old. This is a limited release from them. This is all their own distillate, and it was amazing. When I tasted, so their blend with MGP was good. Their own stuff at about 3 years old, you could tell it was on its way. Really wasn't there yet, but this 6-year-old was really good. So again, from a very small distillery, producing very small amounts, craft, using all of their own stuff, aging it well, and this is really good stuff, especially to support a small distillery. And then last, this was awesome. This is their rhubarb liqueur. So this comes in at 20% ABV, 40 proof, but it's great. It's anybody who grew up eating rhubarb or strawberry rhubarb pies, this is right up your alley. This is fun just to kind of try and show people, but it has a nice both sweet and tart note that would go great in cocktails. So I had to pick that up just from growing up as a kid. Your grandma making strawberry rhubarb pies. Took me back to my childhood. Not drinking as a childhood, but eating pie. So that was a fun stop. Great people. We shared some of our barrel pick pours with them, hung out, had a great time. So I also highly recommend you check out Four Fingers Distillery there in Indianapolis area. All right, as you saw, Saturday was a really exciting day. So Saturday was a special distillery visit to Hard Truth Distillery in Nashville, Indiana. I am on the board of directors of Barrels for Hope. We are a charity barrel picking group. You can check us out at barrelsforhope.com. But we were there doing a barrel pick for the group, and Hard Truth is fantastic stuff. If you haven't heard of it, I was first introduced to it on a blind flight, and that was with their regular sweet mash rye, just the regular sweet mash rye, which I have here. And that's the barrel we picked. We picked a barrel of the sweet mash rye, and I was blown away by a rye whiskey that tasted that complex, that good, and didn't just taste like toothpaste. So while we were there, we did the pick. They took us on an ATV tour that you get to drink on, and all kinds of fun stuff. The hospitality there is second to none. Again, that's in Nashville, Indiana. It's about 30-40 minutes south of Indianapolis. Anybody in the Ohio, Michigan area, or Indiana area, I highly recommend you go check them out. There we also picked up their part of their Master Distillers Reserve Sweet Mash Rye, but this is a chocolate malt Sweet Mash Rye. So I'm really excited about that. And then on the tour, they took us into a smokehouse, and you saw it in the photos, where they roll the barrels in, and instead of like with a Scotch where they smoke the grains, they're actually smoking the barrels. and then using that to finish their whiskey. So I picked up their rye and their bourbon actually finished in those smoked barrels. So it's a double barrel with a smoked barrel, and it's amazing. And what was nice is when you bought at least 2 bottles, you got a bottle of their maple bourbon cream for free, which was really nice because that's great stuff too. So have it maybe in a little after dinner cocktail with some coffee or something. So again, Heart Truth Distillery, Nashville, Indiana. Awesome place. Highly recommend it. Their whiskey is amazing. You can find their sweet mash rye in the Toledo area. Do that. You will not be disappointed. And then if you want more information about why I was here at this pick, you can check out barrelsforhope.com. All right, next up on the trip, heading back east on our way to DC, was New Riff. Now, we had been to New Riff before. In fact, last year on Maumee Valley Whiskey Society, we did a pick, the Maumee Riffer pick at New Riff, which is awesome. Now, you're used to seeing this bottle from New Riff. However, when we went there, we were able to pick up this bottle. So, Silver Grove, straight bourbon whiskey. This is a new label they're coming out with. It's very limited release. I think it's only distillery release right now. But this is their barrel proof without chill filtration, aged at least 4 years. And this is their small batch at barrel proof. So since they started, you've always been able to get their single barrels at barrel proof. But their small batch has always been a bottle and bond, proof down to 100. This is the first time they released a batch product at barrel proof, not chill filtered. And it's really good. I mean, New Riff is just amazing with what they're doing. If you're traveling down south 75, you need to stop and check them out if you haven't. And if you haven't had any of their whiskey before, you really need to check out their single barrel products. I think that's really where they shine. But I'm really liking this Silver Grove as well. And of course, their Bottle and Bond is a great Bottle and Bond bourbon that does very well to stand up in cocktails. So New Riff, check them out. Next up after New Riff was Cincinnati Distilling. About a year and a half ago, I was gifted a bottle of Cincinnati bourbon, and it was pretty good. It wasn't the greatest, but it was pretty good. I liked it. So I was kind of excited to go down there and actually check it out. When we got there, however, it was pretty disappointed. We ordered a flight of all their products and didn't taste near as good as what I remembered in the bottle that I had. So didn't think we were going to really walk away with anything, but I figured, what the heck, stop by the bottle shop, the gift shop, and check it out. And wouldn't you know, I found this little box sitting there with this bottle here in it. This is a 15-year American whiskey that they had. When they first opened, they started sourcing from MGP, like a lot of people do. And apparently they got a couple bottles of what was probably a light whiskey, probably a bourbon mash bill, but in a used barrel, and just set it aside in their warehouse. They were planning to do something with it, and the story is they just kind of forgot about a couple of those barrels up until about a year ago. We're like, well, they're 15 years old now. What are we going to do with them? So they figure they just bottle them and sell them in their gift shop, and they came out with actually a beautiful label. It's a very hard to read label. Beautiful label with that raised metallic blue on the blue label. But it is a 15-year American whiskey from MGP. And what caught my eye, what made me buy this, was the fact that it was only $99. So for technically under $100 for a 15-year-old light whiskey or American whiskey from MGP where most places are sourcing that and charging $200, $250, $300 for the same thing. I was like, yes, I'm gonna buy on that all day long. So went ahead and got that. They had a decent amount on the shelf. So if $100 for a 15-year-old American whiskey or light whiskey from MGP sounds good for you, for only $100, I would get down to Cincinnati pretty quick and snag those. Well, I hope you had as much fun following along my journey with me as I had actually going on that journey and visiting all those distilleries. Appreciate you supporting the channel. If you would please give this video a thumbs up. Click subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you think, what distilleries you love to visit, maybe some plans you have for this summer, where you're going to be visiting, and I will have more videos to come. Cheers.